Hey, peace, everyone. Good morning. This is week 2 of the work-based learning program. Uh, we always kind of jump into it, but I hope you all had a good weekend. And, you know, the upcoming week is looking good for you. Um, Anything you want to share to the cohort before we get started?
Just congratulations on completing the first week. Hope everyone is getting their assignments in. There's a little grace period to get adapted to the program. So, just focus on getting it done this first week. And yeah, let's dive in week 2.
Sure. Yep. So last week, week 1, we focused primarily on uh, one second. Got to make sure the computer's charged. Okay, so last week we focused primarily on cooperative history. If you go into the Repaired Nations work-based learning curriculum, see up here at the top, you'll be able to find both the YouTube videos showing what happened for each day, in addition to the general assignment portal, which you will use for each day's assignment. You can just continually submit different things on this form. And some of the slideshows that we put together for folks that didn't have the book early on. There's still 2 folks in the cohort who haven't received their bags. Sorry for not being able to drop them off over the weekend. I had to do some caretaking, but I'm going to be dropping those off today. We won't be doing the slideshow anymore. So you'll either need to get your bag or purchase a Kindle copy. There's a link right here. So in week 2, we're going to be talking about cooperative history again, but also self-awareness. So we're going to continue to highlight deep historical connections between Black communities, cooperative effort, liberation, and justice. And we're going to also start supporting you all to understand different approaches for gaining insights, as well as gaining language for self-expression of needs, values, feelings, etc. Yeah, so really just diving in. So the first at the okay, slow down. My intention for this week with introducing you all to language and concepts for how to express ourselves is that so we can all have a common language and understanding when talking with each other. And so if something's feeling a little hard or whatever the uncomfortable feeling is, we'll be able to talk about it and understand it through a shared language, hopefully. And I guess Tut and I are also in agreement that when working with each other, we also need to have self-awareness so we can express our needs and values, and we can have honest conversations to move towards good goals with each other. And so the comfort, stretch, and panic zone is a tool for both, I guess, facilitating large groups through some things, but also we can use it as a self-direction tool. You can see at the bottom of this page, the comfort zone is in the middle. It's where we normally reside, where we like to be. Things aren't very tense or anxious there. We feel good, and we're kind of just in flow, doing our thing. We may find that when we're doing things that are new to us or maybe a little bit difficult or challenging, we're moving into the stretch zone, a place that it's not quite comfortable, but we're not panicking yet, or we're not overwhelmed, which is what the panic zone is. We're in this middle place where growth happens between the comfort zone and the panic zone. That's the stretch zone. Oftentimes we want to be there when we're doing growth work, but we also want to recognize that it's not the most comfortable place, and we can continue extending into the panic zone if we're not aware, or something happens that like takes us there. And so as we're moving through this course, I hope you all are able to use this, this technique or this model, this language, to let us know if, you know, when you're having a difficult time. And you can say like, you know, maybe chapter 1 was in your comfort zone. You know, it was talking about the very basics and you were just learning about stuff. But as we're moving into week 2, and, you know, into chapters 3 and stuff, yeah, you may be feeling in your stretch zone because now you're holding 2 things per day instead of 1 thing, right? You're both doing the collective courage and you're doing this this work that we're going to be adding on. And so, or like, let's say you're at your placement for those who are doing an apprenticeship, and it's very comfortable for you, let's say, to do social media stuff because you know, that's your bag, and you know, you're creative, or you know, you enjoy making things. But as soon as you have to learn a new thing, that may get you in your stretch zone because you're like, it's just, you know, it's unfamiliar. And we want to be in our stretch zone, but recognize if we're getting into our panic zone and we're feeling overwhelmed or feeling like we're starting to shut down. And with this language, we can maybe, yeah, express that a little bit better. Anything you want to add, Tuck?
Yeah, this is very applicable to, you know, personal life as well as, you know, the process of moving from independent or traditional business to the cooperative model, or being more about cooperation. I mean, you know, just on a personal level, it was very uncomfortable for me to, you know, step back from this idea of I have to be the alpha omega. I have to have the final say. I have to be, you know, develop this business all by myself, to, you know, sharing that same responsibility, sharing that same sense of respect and authority with another person, maybe 2 people. So I know it can be challenging on that level. And, you know, just thinking about, you know, where we're at from our culture, doing it on a personal level for our family is tremendous benefits, but it can be uncomfortable. So just challenging us to find a specific way that we can apply it, whether it's in the business model with cooperation or even in your personal life, to really put these lessons for this week to the test. Okay, so I'm just putting that challenge out there, and yeah, this was very beautiful and beneficial when I tried it in my own experience.
Thanks, bro. So that leads us into the prompt for week 1. I'm sorry, week 2, assignment 5. This is the first prompt. Name 2 scenarios that the comfort stretch, panic zone concepts may be helpful, and why. So I'll say again, for assignment number 5, the first prompt is to name 2 scenarios that the comfort, stretch, or panic zone concepts may be helpful for you, and why. Okay, so that's prompt 1. We're going to get into Collective Courage now by Jessica Gordon Nemhard. We are in chapter 3. Excuse me. We're in chapter 3 today, and that starts on page 60. And it's going to go through page 79. And so this is talking about early African-American owned cooperative businesses, cooperative in quotes, because it wasn't always like formally a cooperative, but definitely had those roots. I wanted to start off with the, how do I say? With the quotes that are in this chapter. Maybe I'll read the first one, you can read the second one, Ted. So the first one says, even rural communities that lacked the total isolation of the sea islands possessed a strong commitment to cooperatism and a concomitant scorn for the hoarding of private possessions. It is clear that these patterns of behavior were determined as much by economic necessity as by cultural choice. If Black household members pooled their energies to make a good crop, and if communities collectively provided for their own welfare, then poverty and oppression ruled out most of the alternative strategies. Individualism was a luxury that sharecroppers simply could not afford. Jones, 1985. And I wanted to read this because I think in some ways, the salary structure and working for those large blue chip corporations is similar to sharecropping in my estimation, in that we're all kind of stuck in it, and folks are extracting as much as they can from us in that way. They're talking about how individualism was a luxury that people couldn't afford in those days because folks were just on our back so much, it's we had to be together. I guess I'm trying to make a connection that that need for staying together and keeping folks off our backs, out of our peripheral, that want to be oppressive and extractive, that need hasn't gone away. We've just been, I don't know, there's new shiny things to keep us occupied, is what I'll say. Can you read this next one?
Yeah, man, just totally agree with you. Individualism is a luxury that we cannot afford. Still relevant today. And I was thinking about that. I'm glad that you said that we're still in the same position, but we're just overly distracted by shiny things. Touche, brother. That's real talk. Okay, so we're going to get into the next quote. It says, more importantly, the commission, speaking of the 1961 Civil Rights Commission, failed to recognize the degree to which community cooperation during the early years of the 20th century helped move forward local farmers away from economic dependence on whites. Actuated by a strong sense of community, residents of Charles City County developed a diverse agricultural economy that included very few tenant farmers. With little need or desire to depend on white factory and landowners between 1900 and 1930, Black farmers achieved a level of economic independence that later aided to the struggle for political rights and racial justice, Craig, 1987. And what he's saying is that we were able to support the civil rights movement as a whole more effectively, more beneficially, by having our own means of cooperation and economic independence from doing things in a cooperative manner. And they're saying that the Civil Rights Commission failed to recognize the benefits of organizing our own efforts to keep the fight, to funding the fight, to keeping the fight going. And like Brother Greg said so eloquently, we're still missing a lot of that today. Okay, so.
Yeah. Thanks, Ted. Yeah, I mean, I think what I wanted to say before moving on is the struggle for liberation, the fight for liberation, has to be funded from somewhere. And during these times, it was very prevalent for people who were voting to get kicked off of their land or to get evicted from their homes. And so folks had to move in those kinds of understandings that if I'm fighting for justice, the society that is may reject me or try and, blackball me or whatever you want to call it. And because there were systems like mutual aid, food, and insurance and all of that stuff, we could step out on a limb, take those risks because we had our own safety nets. And so, yeah, just very important that, we figure out how to get back to that group economics. And it's going to start on an individual level, move into the family, and keep extending from there. And we'll, probably on small scales that can be aggregated, a big impact. But ultimately, we have to make that choice personally. Okay, getting off the soapbox. As we're moving through this chapter 3, we're gonna we're gonna encounter a bunch of mutual aid insurance companies If you go and look out now, there are still mutual insurance companies, not necessarily Black owned, but mutual insurance company means that the policyholders own the insurance company. And so like Northwest Mutual or Mass Mutual or Liberty Mutual or anything with mutual is likely an insurance company owned by the policyholders. That thing, like configuration, is still around today. So you'll be learning about how Black folks were using that in the early 1800s. Lots of cool stuff in here, mostly in the South and in the East Coast, because that's where we were at the time. So you can read about what they were doing in North Carolina. I think we mentioned the Chesapeake Marine Railway and Dry Dock Company, an amazing story about how folks resisted oppression, purchased their own, well, they tried to purchase, but because others owned the land, there was like this whole funky thing about how they had to end business even though they were super successful. But you can learn about this, like kind of see the tricks as well as see the successes. And so there's a lot here. The Coleman Manufacturing Company in North Carolina, very interesting story. And I think if you read between the lines, you can see that they might have gotten too much press at the time. I think that's what Tut and I came to the conclusion of, but they kind of end mysteriously at this company. Interesting thing to read. The Lexington Savings Bank, another awesome thing to read about. Also a lesson in here about like internal things and scandals and how that can affect the momentum of a business. We'll get into the Universal Negro Improvement Association. I think Tut and I are always excited and a little bit surprised that Dr. Nemhard included this in here. You'll learn about how Marcus Garvey and the rest of the members were pooling resources in terms of like getting stock so that we could get boats, have our own shipping lines and other things. And so there's tons to learn in here about that. Anything, Tut, you want to add?
Man, and please take your cake and your ice cream and really get a good serving when you get to the portion about the UNIA. Man, I still consider myself a Garveyite to this day in certain aspects. What this man was able to do in a collective with a focus group. It wasn't just him, but he was the voice of this cooperative, if we can stick to that term related to this book, was tremendous. Still wasn't able to be duplicated to this day, not only just by Blacks, but period. Somebody to organize that mass of people in that amount of time to do, monumental things that we can actually look to and, can compare and contrast actual numbers, actual businesses. So, really understand what was happening. If you can pause, read up on what was going on in America, Black America at the time of the UNIA. And then I feel like it'll give you a greater appreciation what they were able to do, getting the businesses started, the Black Star Line, and many other businesses. And of course, on the tail end, we see the tragic, infiltration and the demise that was caused by the federal government, but the successes outweigh and are way more monumentous than the small divisiveness that took place to, eventually slow down the effort. So please spend some time with the Garvey, with Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association. I feel like, you'll be able to take a lot of gems, lessons, and jewels for today's time.
Actually, so that leads us into prompt number 2 for today's assignment number 5. And that is pick one of the co-ops mentioned today and give 2 interesting facts after, reading through the book, the chapter about them. And so that could be the UNIA, could be the Marine Railway, could be Coleman Manufacturing. It could be think there's another one, Lexington Savings Bank, United Order of the True Reformers. There's a few in here. So read through. It could be like whichever one is calling to you. Please do that prompt. So we got your education requirement down for the day. Okay, so after we move through the Universal Negro Improvement Association, you could see here on the page what Tut was talking about. They had a joint stock holding company for 2 uniform assembly factories, a laundry, a printing plant, 3 restaurants, a grocery store, in addition to the Black Star Line. So they were definitely like, just doing a bunch of amazing things. And then the last prompt is you'll be getting to at the end of the book. There's still more that I didn't mention. So, please go through all of them, or at least, use that technique that we talked about, reading the first and last sentence of each paragraph. That'll help you get just like a general sense of what's going on for the book. The last prompt is going to be found in this economic segregation and the group economy section. Wanting for you to read this, pull one lesson learned from here. And asking for you to do that because this is where Jessica Gordon Nemhard is kind of summing up this chapter as well as part 1 and giving some lessons learned about what we've read about and gone through. So please read through this. Give us a one lesson learned from this conclusion chapter. And then next week we'll be going into part 2 and chapter 4. So that's all we got for today. I'll just say again what the prompts are for assignment 5. Prompt number 1 is to name 2 scenarios, that the comfort, stretch, and panic zone framework can be helpful for you, and why. Prompt number 2 is to pick one cooperative and give 2 interesting facts about them from chapter 3. And then the last prompt number 3, is to pick one lesson learned from the economic segregation section at the end of chapter 3. And just to show you all again and give a recap of how to do stuff, I'll be sending you an email with this, but essentially you're going to go to this general ed assignment portal. Feel free to bookmark this or however you want to save it. You're just going to put in this general info. You can either put the date that the lecture was submitted or the assignment number. So this is assignment number 5, and the date is July 19th. And then there are the 3 prompts. After you submit it, it'll let you do it again. So you're going to do this 4 times this week for the 4 different assignments. Yeah, that brings us to the end of today's little transmission. Appreciate y'all for joining. If you have any questions, yeah, please, unmute or put it in the chat. Otherwise, we'll close out for today. Righteous. Tut and I are always available. Tut, I'm sorry, by email or text, also by DM probably. But we'll talk to you soon, and appreciate you. Take care, y'all.